Welcome to the Higher Density Living.
Jason, how are you?
Good. I'm excited. I feel like we're going to have a Lady Gaga moment today.
Ooh, rah, rah. Ooh, la, la, gaga.
Yes, we are going to jump right into this really quickly.
Yeah.
I don't even want to do sponsors or anything. We're going to go right into Raw.
You know what? Fuck our sponsors.
We could say that.
We can say that.
So we'll do that in the middle and at the end or whatever. If you haven't listened to the last podcast,
Go listen to it.
don't listen to this one until you listen to the last one.
Otherwise, this is just going to be gibberish and you'll be like, I'm done listening to these guys.
Yeah, so I want heavy information this whole time.
And can we explain? All right, and because you need to listen to the last one, it's like you going into an MIT astrophysics class, but you've never done any of the work ahead of time to understand the base of the material.
Yes, that's what's going to happen.
Okay? Don't walk into a movie halfway through and ask what's going on. Go watch it at another time and learn what happened at the beginning so you understand the plot.
So who is Raw?
I thought we were just getting into this. Yeah. Ra is a social memory complex.
Right.
Okay? It is a highly evolved spiritual group of beings, right? Or energetic forms that have evolved over millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of years, eons of time. Okay? And this group has come down, okay? And they have tuned their frequency, which is a highly refined vibration.
Right.
And they have matched the vibration of a group of 3 individuals here on Earth. Don Elkins, Carla Rueckert, Jim McCarthy, right? And the triad of this 3 group had brought together in enough amplitude of vibrational power to match up and receive this information from this group, right?
And this is on their website, all for free. These books are for free.
Yep.
LOresearch.org.
You don't have to buy the books, but you can go read a couple of the PDFs or the EPUB files.
Right.
Read a couple chapters in the first book, okay? That way you can't just be like, I'm not going to invest my time. Why don't you just go test it out so you understand where we're coming from with all of this?
Yep, go right into the Raw. And so we are a social media complex, our group soul. They've made contact with the race on the planet. We're going to get right into this. They said they made contact with the race of our planet called Egyptians.
That's correct.
And we spoke to one who heard and understood and was in a position to create the law of one.
Akhenaten. So let's just break that down real quick. The Ra social memory complex came down. They took on a physical form, and they spoke with Akhenaten, who was the child boy pharaoh of the time.
Right.
And it was his intention to say that we need to worship only one thing. And worship really isn't the right word, but that's how people understood it at the time. People weren't very educated. But to get them to focus on that, this principle that all energy, all power, all knowledge comes from one place, and that's the creative source, infinite creator. All right? And that was very disruptive to the rest of the older pharaohs, their regimes,
Right.
and the priests at the time who held a lot of power over the people, because now it's not saying that you have to receive your information from the priest and the priest dictates how you should live your life. You can dictate it yourself by receiving information from creative, intelligent source energy that is omnipotent and always there and for you to access when you want to.
And this person that wrote a study guide about the law of one said this. Based on the very clear correlation between this and other statements with those of the Edgar Cayce readings, we can see that this was the identity Ra-Ta, who helped Ra design the Great Pyramid with Hermes and much later reincarnated as Cayce himself. That's this guy's viewpoint.
It's his viewpoint, right, that's correct.
However, the priests and the peoples of that era quickly distorted our message, robbing it of the compassion
Thank you.
with which unity is informed.
Okay, again, so if you're going to disrupt a power structure, okay, if people have power over you, or perceived power, like the priests at the time, they were the only person that had access to books or education or certain hieroglyphic tablets and things like that. They're the ones that would dictate to the people that were illiterate or had no ability to, truly think for themselves because they were busy worshiping these figures, right? Mm-hmm. These God-formed people. That's no longer necessary. So the priests were upset by this concept or idea that this being, this higher density being, comes down a 6th density being, to come help the earth and say that there's no reason to worship any other gods or these priests.
That's the same when Jesus came down.
It's the same thing that Jesus said.
And then the priests at the time.
It's the same thing that Buddha said, right?
Yes, yeah.
It's the same damn story over and over, right? So, and this is a non-dogmatic view, and so these people are like all upset with it, right? The priests at the time. And I don't know if they might get into this part next, was the fact that Ra had come down originally to build one pyramid. Okay? Just take it easy on this, but it is said, from what our understanding is through the channel material, that the pyramid was built overnight. And you're like,
We're fixing to do the mysteries of the pyramid right here.
yeah, and we'll solve all the mysteries right now. The main pyramid of Giza, the main one before the other two were built literally in one night. So what happened was, because Ra, as a social memory complex, understands that everything in the universe has an energetic body and they all share some sort of vibration with creative source energy, they, through their own evolutionary development, understand how to talk to baser materials like rock. So by talking to this baser material rock, they can ask it, literally ask the rock, speak to it vibrationally, and tell it to split and form itself into a specific shape of their own thought and form. There was no manual labor that was involved in the creation of the pyramid. It was a thought form. They thought about what they wanted it to be, asked the rock to take that shape, and the rock took that shape. I know that concept is totally effing wild to really think about, but that's why you have so much mathematical precision and all these other things, because you have such a highly evolved group coming in to build something that is truly a wondrous mechanical engineering marvel. It would only make more sense that someone did just think about what it would be looking like and how it would be formed, and it would be formed overnight. It's actually, this is the most simplest way of describing how it was made, is to assume that some higher, more evolved being came down and just said, just create it.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that. I mean, because they view stone totally different than we do.
And this is an important thing. So, and they view stone. Stone is a living thing.
Mm-hmm.
Stone encompasses creative source energy. So when people talk about your body has 7 chakras, or 7 etheric bodies, stone also carries 7 etheric bodies. So does trees and dirt and water and all these other material. And so they have the ability to understand that, because they've evolved so much with it,
right,
that they can speak to the vibration of that material and then ask it to change its structure ad hoc or at will.
Yeah, and they get into that when they first got here. It was about 75,000 years ago. When that was their first attempt. Their second attempt was with those of Mu.
You're saying 7,500 or 75,000 years ago?
75,000, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, 75,000 years ago, they were talking about things like Atlantis. So Plato, the philosopher...
Yeah, Atlantis, they said, was 13,000 years ago.
Right. So they were here way, way before. The Earth has been around for a very long time, and
right,
they've come and gone back and forth to try and help people on the planet to evolve quicker. Okay? Or a more accelerated rate to understand the true principles of creative, intelligent source energy of love and light, right? That's the one thing that they were preaching. I guess preaching isn't the right word, educating. And so when they came down, they spoke with people of Atlantis, ancient Egypt, and also this place called Mu. Mu was a place that paralleled with Atlantis. There were these two, it was another, I guess, was it another island, or was it another planet itself? It was another geographic area of a specific time with a earlier race of human beings, and they had contact with these people. And over time, through the ebb and flows and the cycle of our planet and our people, different civilizations have come and go, and we have lost certain knowledge and understandings of the universe and its teachings over time. And so what they're
right,
trying to do is bring back those teachings, but this time, because they realized when they were a teacher, they weren't a very good teacher before.
Right.
But they've recognize the mistakes, and now they're here to fix the mistakes by educating in a different format.
Yes, and we're going to get into that. So they helped. Their first attempt was 75,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Mu was 58,000. Atlantis was 13,000. And then the next attempt was to help the Egyptians and to some in South America about 11,000 years ago.
They're extremely matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
Like about everything. Here's the date, here's what it is, this is when we did it, this is exactly what happened.
And then between 7,500 and 3,500 years, they helped a lot of people in South America. Thus,
Yes.
we're getting these pyramids, we're getting these explanations.
And it's funny that, and then you're like, wow, then I can understand why there's a lot of shared architecture and things across these borders when people didn't have the ability to actually make it across the ocean. That's because it wasn't necessary. Somebody was sharing these ideas back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, wait a minute, something interesting is happening here. So what does that lead us to next?
That Ra makes a statement, and when they're talk, they always say, like, I am Ra, we greet you in the light and love of our infinite creator. So
They
Ra,
always open, I'm sorry, I just got to precursor
Yes.
this. They always open up with an absolute truth.
Yes.
Always. This is our energy, this is what we go by, and this is what we come from. Always. That is the structure of how everything is always open. And so then the group, L&L Research Group, could always guarantee the contact when it was coming through in the information, because that is always how it would be opened up.
Right.
Every single time. So you knew that someone else wasn't tooling with the vibrational wave of the energetic signature coming between this narrow wavelength band of information.
So, question was asked by Don, is Raw one of many? Question was, when I'm communicating with you as Raw, are you at times individualized as NT, or am I speaking to an entire social memory complex?
Let me guess, they said they're both.
Raw, you speak with Raw, there's no separation.
That's exactly right.
You would call it a social memory complex, that's indicating minniness. To our understanding, you are speaking to an individualized portion of consciousness. So note, this is from another author, in other words, Raw represents an entire planet's worth of beings who have all fused into one unified consciousness. Each density in the octave moves closer and closer to the fully unified one mind of the creation. The structures and abilities of mind becoming increasingly difficult for the human identity to fathom.
Right.
So unpack all that, because we just lost people.
All right, so sit back, put your feet up, get some popcorn. This is going to be a bit. What it is saying is that through the time of evolution,
right,
for this group, okay, the body of this people, we'll assume that they were people at one time, began to realize that their consciousness is the one thing that continued to live forever. And that became a universal understanding for this group. Once they came to that understanding, it was more important for them now to no longer choose to reincarnate their bodies into a physical vessel,
right,
but to stay as this individuated soul consciousness and then bind its individuated self with all the others within their planet-like or grid structure, okay? So it's like you're at a concert, everybody's an individual, and I want you to picture everyone, like there's a separation. Imagine like their brain, like a ball of light floating above their head. And all these balls of light are now going to choose to come together to make this one super big ball of light. And in doing so, they choose to be an individuated consciousness where they all think, act, and feel all the thoughts and emotions of all these separate identities, but they act as one unified thing.
It's like electricity going in parallel.
Like electricity going in parallel, or a school, or a school of fish. You have all these different schools of fish, right?
Right. Each being an individual.
But at the same time becomes one super fish that becomes actually more efficient moving through the water.
Right.
So they realized that the efficiency of their evolution would progress quicker if they adopted the principles of unity, which are the things that the, intelligent creative source energy were actually portraying, right? So if they completely aligned with the natural creative laws of the universe itself, it would allow them to evolve at an accelerated rate and move to the highest forms of evolution.
Right.
So then it becomes difficult to conceptualize what's going on. So yes, they are individuated, but at the same time, this individuatedness, there is a connectedness between every individual. So are they truly individual? No, they are not. And that's what they are trying to say. Within being an individual, you're also connected to the greater whole, and the greater whole is also the individual itself.
But we have to realize this information that they were giving to us had been distorted multiple times. And so, whether we look at these powerful people that are in the world, we look at in our generation, but this information can be distorted and then be used just like the priest did in Egypt or whatever. We have that same information being passed on to these powerful people and then them turning around and distorting it. And I like what they said here.
Can we use an example of that? Let's look at the news. You have good, high-intentioned information, but then when it is transferred to someone who disseminates that information, they skew it in a format that they choose to portray it to the rest of the general public. Okay? And that's the best way I can make a parallel with what happened historically when they contacted earlier human beings and people of power, and what they chose to do with that information, then use it to then be even more abusive and in control of these other people and abuse their free will. Much like what can happen with the news, right? A select amount of people, very few get the information, and that small amount of few disseminate it to the greater whole. And they realize that's the wrong way of doing things. That's what caused the distortion. That's what took the true teaching and used it so that it could only empower and only help a select few so that they can be in control of the greater whole of people.
And Ra clarifies that very specifically by saying this, and I want you to talk about this. Ra states that honoring the free will of others is the most important principle in the universe.
Yes. All right. understand the reflexive property of what we have talked about. If there is a principle of unification between all of us, there is no differentiating factor between you and me, the tree, a frog, a rock, all these other things. We all come from the same base source of energy of love and light.
Right.
For you to obstruct free will of another individual or being or thing, okay, you are restricting the free will of yourself and the inability for you to evolve. You are withholding the evolutionary path in thought and complex of another individual in spirit so that you can have comfort in finding what you're doing with yourself. So they're saying, if you do not respect that, the law of free will, the law of choice and creation and all these other things that stem from free will, you cannot respect yourself and your growth and who you are as an individual. So once you come to terms with the fact that everybody has their own free choice to receive that information and you are not allowed to be the one to go and say that this is how something is, rather it's up for them to decide, that is the most important factor, because that means everybody on their own time, on their own path, will decide how they want to learn, what they want to learn, and when they want to learn it. Not for someone else to tell them or stuff it down their throat. And this law of free will is important, and this is that non-dogmatic nature. And this is the mistake that they had made before, and now that they are fixing and understanding that we will give you only what you ask for when you are willing to receive it, because we want to respect the number one thing, that's the law of free will, that everyone has that sovereign choice to create and think and do within this universe, and for us to obstruct that.
Can we use that in our daily lives when we look at somebody interacting with us?
1,000%, Jason. You could go look at somebody and be like, am I going to obstruct this person's free will? Am I going to stop what they're doing? Am I going to say that that's wrong or they need to act a certain way? Who am I to judge or say that they should be doing that? Then I'm only restricting how I view the world at that point.
Right.
I've restricted my ability to evolve and learn because I'm saying that this is how things are. And then I need to apply that distortion of that idea of how things work to how someone in some other timeline and some other possibility is living their life and their own stage of learning on their path.
So a religion that restricts free will.
You stay as far away as possible because it's not respecting the laws of nature within itself. Nature is the precursor to religion anyway. So how can you say that religion is the thing defining nature? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's so contradictory, it's hypocritical at that point.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about the word. We even have the word density because we have higher density living.
Yes.
And you go to our website, higherdensityliving.com. I want to get into the cycles that Ra has completed.
Great.
Because he talks about this, and I hope you guys are listening to this and reading the book, and you'll get into this when you understand this. But I want people to understand a path of learning. And they talk about this. Ra says the path of our learning is graven in the present moment. There's no history as you understand the concept. Picture a circle of being. We know the alpha and omega as infinite intelligence. The circle never ceases. It is present. The densities or cycles we have traversed are, and it's, but I want you to talk about that before we get into first, second, third, and all that.
Okay. The circle is never ending. That is correct. It has no beginning. It has no end. It's a circle. Where does your circle start? If you draw a circle, tell me where it starts. You're going to say, well, it's where I started drawing it. Well, no, that's not, Jason, that's not what it is. Right. You don't talk like that. I'm sorry.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
When I'm wearing it.
But if you draw a line, it's beginning.
Late in the evening. We're role playing, okay? It's fine, Alex.
When you draw a line, there's a finite beginning and end.
Right.
Okay? But that's not nature. There's no cycle to a line. Okay? If you get on a train, you start at one destination and you end at the other.
So that's a long line.
That's a long line, right? It's this false form of measurement to say that something starts and begins and then ends and stops somewhere.
So why is our home square?
I've been talking. This is what I've been talking to Amanda about this. I'm like, I don't want no damn square house. We're getting a circular house.
Right. So it's infinite.
Right? Because it's infinite. The energy is infinite. Nature in itself runs in cycles. Okay? Women have their menstrual periods, okay, within a cycle. People live and die within cycles. People are birthed within cycles. The universe spins within cycles. Everything has spin. It is circular. It is round, like a tornado,
Farmers
like a hurricane. We rotate our crops in cycles. The seasons move in cycles. The sun moves in cycles. Right. Our blood circles through our body, cycles through the body, okay? All of these things are matching with nature.
So why are we taking nature and putting them into boxes?
Why do we put it into boxes? Because
square boxes.
It's our understanding of that's how we control things, right? Because when you put something,
but then we have free will again.
No, but then you're inhibiting free will. Things can't really move when you have it in a box. Do you ever get uncomfortable because you're sitting in a house too long?
Yes.
Man, it's brutal, right? There's no natural flow to it. But you're comfortable sitting in the ocean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been in a round room? There's actually something quite pleasing about it.
Well, you're going to build one.
Yeah, I'm going to build one, right? But they explain themselves that they come from a place of circularity. There is no end limit. There is alpha and omega. The beginning and the end are both the same. It's complete unity. There is no polarity.
And there's no, like they say, the circle never ceases.
The circle never ceases. It continues to go in a cycle
Does it get
over and over and over.
Or
it doesn't matter. There is no. Here's a problem. You asked if it got bigger. Bigger is a sense of measurement. The circle is just a conceptual idea, irregardless of size, time, or space. That it's just what it is. It embodies an everlasting cycle. That's all it is.
So when they're talking about densities of cycles,
Yes.
and they get into, and I'll explain each one, but they get into first density, second density. They're talking about, are they trying to make it so we understand it, or
Yeah, because remember they said at
we need bullet points?
our first episode that they were going to put this in a different sort of slant.
Mm.
Their understanding of creational laws and the structure of the universe and how your spirit actually functions is something that is difficult to explain because it's an energetic substance. It's something of a vibrational energy. So
Right.
again, they're trying to take it and translate it to English, which is so limiting. There's only so many words you can have to describe something, so many concepts that our brain can truly understand because
We have
that's...
to realize if you listen to these, because they're recordings
Yes.
for all these years, they have the recordings and it's super slow.
She is going like a word every 5 seconds. One word.
Yeah.
For 2 years straight she did this. It's amazing that you
I think,
can...
did they get like 300,000 words or something?
Yeah. The fact I couldn't even I couldn't put together... I'd forget what my sentence was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Think about that though. When she's sitting there laying down,
Yeah.
and they're always asking in the book, you know, is everything aligned? Are we all
Is she
good?
comfortable? Are we doing the right things?
Because they can actually kill her.
Yeah.
That conscious level recognizes they could kill her.
And we have... I guess we'll explain that really...
Physically.
We'll explain that really quick. Her energetic spiritual body, right? Her etheric body, all of her chakras combine together to create this one unified source, right? This ethereal body that sits around her aura. Requires a lot of energy to be aligned, okay, to tune into a very specific frequency, okay? So lasers require a lot of energy to get a very specific
Yes.
band of energy. So for her, it requires a lot of her body's physical energy to tune in to this very narrow band. So it debilitates the energetic stores of her body and actually withers her away. And because this woman already has an autoimmune disorder, right? She's already slowly dying over time at an
Raw's being really conscious of that. When you read the book,
Yeah.
when you guys read the book, you're going to see that they're like, we need to stop right now.
Yeah, because they understand what her energetic stores, the mitochondria within her body, can no longer energetically support her light body, her etheric body that is tuned in with them. The body needs to rest. And that's the most important, and that's an important part of that.
So, first entity
Yeah.
is
So
the cycle of awareness.
okay. To get an encompassing picture, everybody talks about the chakras, right?
Mm-hmm.
These chakras, 1 through 7, have a specific color. They match the rainbow. Roy G. Biv. Okay, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Okay, red being 1, violet being 7. Each of those specific colors are resonant with a specific tone. Okay, tone is representative of color. Remember here, everything in the universe is all one and the same. It's a unified principle. So light and sound are all but the same thing. 1 through 7, G through or C through A, or B, say C through B on the scale, the piano scale, and Roy G. Biv through all your colors. It's the full spectrum of color. And if you look at physics, it's the same thing for how we measure things, right? You have your X-rays, you have your gamma rays, you have your ultraviolet. You have all these different things across the spectrum, and they all associate with a chakra color and a tone or a sound. And that first density is a period of, what'd you say, creational learning? What was it?
It's the cycle of awareness. I do want to stop this for a second. Because
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to see, I like doing experiments.
Okay.
Live experiments. We're on the radio right now. We're talking about this. My left arm is totally numb.
Are you having a fucking stroke?
Yes. No, I want to see how many other people.
Oh, how many other people might have a numb left arm right now?
Talking about this, just out of curiosity.
Oh, just thinking about it. I wonder
Yeah.
if someone shares that, whatever is going on with them.
Yeah, it would be interesting. They can email us.
Yeah.
at Alex at Higher Density Living, or they can email Jason at higherdensityliving.com. Or DM us.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting if you're listening to this and your left arm is numb completely.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how many other people.
And just so you guys know, when I talk, I feel a massive amount of energy that goes up and down my spine. How do I describe that? You know the feeling of goosebumps that makes your hair stand up? Mm-hmm. Imagine if that was confined only to your spine and it goes right up to the nape of your neck. I feel that when I speak.
Yeah, because people have to understand, you've been doing this for a while, and then you're meditating.
I'm very sensitive to what that energy is.
Right.
So when I speak of something, and I know when I'm speaking on the right truth, or I'm in a proper path, right, or I'm speaking honestly, that will resonate within my spine, and I can feel that energy, and it moves through me, in and out. So if anyone else is listening to something, if they get some sort of confirmed thought, and they have that feeling, DM us.
Yeah,
I want to know.
Yeah, we want to know this because it helps us with the collective.
Yeah. Now, there are 7 densities, like we said before.
First density, the cycle of awareness.
The cycle of awareness, okay? And that is representative of the color red. It is a long, heavy density. That wavelength is very stretched out. That's why red, the color red, travels so far. That's why the military uses it in submarines, right? Mm-hmm. It's very easy to see in low light. It's not very disturbing, but it's a very heavy substance, right?
So what would a first density being look like? A plant, or
no? It'd be like amoebas.
Oh, okay.
Like bacteria.
They're just getting awareness.
If it's just getting
awareness of themselves.
It's an energetic awareness, is what it is, right? It's the first stages of the physical form, and that's what that red wavelength is actually encompassing. So go ahead, and then we move into
second density.
Second density. Go ahead.
Which is Ross sums it up in one word: growth.
That's the density of growth. Okay, so now you've taken on your full physical vessel, orange. Okay. So you moved up from the area of your crotch closer to your belly button, right? If you're looking at the chakras of a human being. And this area of growth is where you begin to grow as an individual in your physical form. Before you've even taken on an identity to say that I am human, or I am this, right? Or I am Jason. Before that even happens, right? Before the ego comes into play, this is just the growth of physical substance that is happening. So red is your base material, okay? And now you've pulled all that red together in the first density, and you moved up into the second one. Okay, I've got all my stuff in my first density. Now I want to amass it into something. That becomes my orange. I start to move into my physical vessel for who I am.
The third density?
The third is my yellow. Okay?
Okay, so first is the cycle of awareness. You're becoming aware.
You're becoming aware of that energy. The energy is aware.
And then second density is, through that awareness, there's growth.
That's correct.
Right?
Yes. Because I'm aware of this, now I can do something with it.
Red, yellow.
So red, orange.
Right, red, orange.
Roy, G-Biv, right? So we just orange is your second one, and now we're going into yellow, which is our third. And third is described as what by Ra?
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness. That is the description of the I am. That is when the ego now comes into play within the spirit, right? To say that I am Jason, I am a plant, I am a human being, I am a dolphin, I am these things, right? That's when the ego comes into play. And these lower...
I'm thinking of Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey?
I am the dolphin.
I am the dolphin. But these things are the base material for our physical being and who we are. Now we have consciousness. Red, orange, and yellow, we have a determined consciousness. There's the understanding that I am. Beyond the further understanding of your interconnectedness, you only understand your individuated aspect of self. Nothing more. That's it.
So, where are humans at?
Well, that depends. Every human is unique. We all have our chakras, right?
Right.
All of them are going all the time. But Ra speaks of this thing called crystallization. Crystallization is a perfect form of coherence, like a laser. That means crystallization has a solidified structure. It's totally in balance. We all have all these chakras, but a lot of them can be out of balance. Our energetic signatures are out of balance. And doing that doesn't allow us to evolve because we haven't fixed the balance between our lower ones up to our highest form, right? So you got the longer wavelengths at the bottom. You have to refine them into higher, more beautiful tones. But you can't refine the higher, more beautiful tones until you've fixed your bass tones that carry the orchestra forward, like the drums that set the beat. If the beat of the drum is not set, the rest of the orchestra cannot continue with the proper rhythm and tone that they need. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense, yeah.
Okay, so let's work on our lower orchestra, which is our red, our orange, and our yellow. And that's what we are moving through.
So the average person...
The average person is still working with...
Third.
Is first, second, third, and a lot of them are dealing with the yellow area, right? with the ego is understanding the self, who I am, is being comfortable with the body that they have, right? Not worrying about what other people think of it, just being like, this is what I have and I appreciate it and I understand my individuality as self. That is the stage a lot of people are still trying to get past.
So Carl Jung, he wrote all about third density.
All about third density, right? Understanding the psyche of trying to figure out myself. Who the hell am I?
Right.
And once you can move past that, remember what I've said many times before, once you understand yourself, then you can go help other people understand themselves.
And Raw gets into that as far as like learn, teach, learn.
That's exactly correct. So after we move through our Roy, right? Our boy Roy. We're going to say Roy. Society's in Roy stage right now, right? So we got to get them up to the...
fourth density.
We got the middle name G. And G's going to stand for... I don't even know. What's a good G name?
No, I just like G. Like, what up, G?
Yeah, what up, G? So we got Roy G, right?
Right.
So now we got to move into the G stage. And so what is G? What does Ra describe our fourth chakra or the fourth density level as?
Is the law of love, the love or understanding.
Understanding. Law of love or understanding. Love is understanding. Understanding is wisdom. So, like I said, if you've understand the third density, okay, which is this yellow area of accepting yourself and who you are, then you can learn to accept and understand other people. That is true love. True love is understanding of this other individual. To understand that they are you. They have a piece of you. They share the same aspects of you.
So Jesus is he was sixth dimensional, right?
Yes.
That's what Raul talks about.
Yes.
So his whole push on love your neighbor as yourself and all that,
was
all, he was sharing fourth density teachings?
Fourth density teachings, because what they call the green ray heart, the heart chakra, the green ray center. Imagine like a green laser coming out of your chest. Remember, like Aquaman? Is that who it was? Or the Green Lantern?
The Green Lantern.
The Green Lantern.
Yeah, that was Ryan Reynolds.
I want you to picture you as Ryan Reynolds.
I'm picturing Ryan Reynolds right now, bro.
In spandex.
Yes.
Green.
Yeah, even though I do love the Deadpool movies.
Right, the Deadpool movies are great.
Yeah.
But the point is, that center right there, that is the glue. Remember we spoke about before creative, love, lights, infinite, source energy? The glue that binds material together, right? You have love and you have light, the thing that binds light together to form something. That is that green area. That's that highest form of understanding. So once we understand the things about ourselves, we can then combine how we interact with other people. We can then begin to truly create with others.
What if you had the point in your life where you could understand, sitting down with Mother Teresa and understand exactly where she's coming from, sit down with Adolf Hitler, understand exactly where he's coming from, sit down with Bernie Sanders, understand exactly where he's coming from, sit down with
Gorbachev,
Donald Trump, or Gorbachev, or
Mussolini, Trump,
and truly look at them with a full love and full understanding.
Yes. And
that's what they're talking about.
That's what it is. It's an understanding of where that individual is and what they speak of in the highest form of respect.
Without judging them.
Because
see, I would look at, if I'm sitting down with Mussolini, I would just want to kill him.
This is the problem.
That's my warrior side of me that would be like...
But understand, his chakras, right, his density, his levels, his understanding, his perspective of the universe is in a different energetic signature than yours. Not that it's wrong. There's no such thing as wrong, okay? He just operates in a different level or wavelength that you don't operate at. So it would behoove you, again, to use this from our last week's episode, to understand the energetic signature of that individual and accept it. Not deny it, but understand that we all share that.
Can I accept it as I kill him?
Yeah, I suppose you could.
I accept where you're at.
Drag him through the streets naked.
A million people.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is, if you understand that energy of who he is, you understand that you also have some of that energy.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
There are darker sides to all of us.
There's a Hitler in all of us.
Yes, to some sort of extent. He was just a magnification of that one specific energy.
There's a Trump in all of us, a Hitler in all of us.
But what Ross speaks of is finding that balance, that crystallization of the self, that coherence to become like that laser. To take all these densities within the self to create one sort of focus beam. And what happens when you put all these different colors of light through a prism? They turn back into white light. It becomes then a unified principle. So when you become coherent, crystalline, you become a unified white light, right? And you emit that understanding, that highest form of truth. You become that creative source energy.
So let's get into fifth density.
Yes.
Which is Is there fifth density beings on Earth?
Okay. A fifth density being,
According to Ra.
according to Ra, has the choice to be in a physical form
Right.
or non-physical form. That is the choice of the fifth density being. So are there some on Earth? I don't know.
So fourth density is law of love.
It's the law of love.
Fifth density, we can choose whether to be in a physical being or not.
And what is it called?
Light or wisdom, the law of light.
Yeah. So M's
So
is
what is light or wisdom?
light or wisdom, right? When you speak something that you know is to be the highest form of truth, where's that coming from? It comes through the heart, and then it comes up through the throat, and then we project that information. We share.
Isn't that information infinite?
Yeah, we share.
Our circle.
It is, of course, it is, right? And we're sharing that information. That's what we're doing. So in that higher fifth density, you've understood that there's a principle of unification within the fourth density. That all of us come together, that there's a greater understanding of wisdom, of love, of cohesiveness, of glue that brings us all together. You've now overcome that. You understand that principle. That's not something you think about anymore. So now that everything you think about in the fifth density is a function that happens only outside of what we call paradoxes or polarities, those things don't need to happen anymore, because all you're looking at now is a function of unification. And this is the first step to a total unified whole, where you're still the individual self in a fifth density form,
Right.
but you're not a group collective that has come together in total unity.
So what does the word light mean? What is Ra talking about with light?
Light is information. Light is pure energy, is pure creative energy. So a fifth density being, whatever it might be, right, whatever form, chooses to then portray and give that light, that creative source energy out. It understands the ideology of service to self or service to others. It chooses to be Mother Teresa all the time.
So the speed of light.
Yeah, the speed of... God. And all these things are interconnected, right? So that means the vibrational pattern of this being is moving closer to the highest form of speed of light. So it's getting closer to the 333 million miles per hour or whatever it might be.
So if this fifth density being it would be a restriction to be in a physical form.
Yeah, that's correct. Because at this point it's now starting to understand that the physical form is something temporary. And its embodiment of energy, of love and light, is saying that I am starting to choose to take that infinite form, but there are evolutionary steps I need to take in my wisdom, my sharing, my path, my greater understanding that will move me there.
And Ra got real intimate. This was interesting. I like this, and he talked about this. He said, "We spent much time, space, in fifth density, balancing the intense compassion we had gained in fourth density."
What happens is you become such a deep understanding of the woes, the feelings, the emotions, the true understanding of what it means to be a part of a collective. It becomes very overwhelming. Like, how do I explain this? Some time ago in one of our podcasts, I talked about debt, financial debt.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that I could feel the pain for a brief moment of everybody that feels that burden of financial debt.
There's people that commit suicide over that.
The people that commit, there's a lot of grief that comes with it, right? A lot of strain.
Right.
So balancing out those energies, because you now understand the intensity of what a group can feel, because your wisdom becomes so extensive, so evolved, your understanding of the other as being the self becomes just so magnified. It's a lot to deal with. So it takes
what is that horrible feeling that people feel when they're in debt?
That is a lack of free will. It is total restriction of the choice of the spirit. To choose to end the life abruptly, to not to choose to take any more forms, is because some other thing is determining the flow of your life. Think about what you cannot do because you're burdened by debt. You can't choose the choices to love and follow passions that you truly want. You restrict the things that truly make up who you are. You miss the true Jason. You miss the true self. And doing that cripples a person inside, internally. And that's what debt does.
And then you have a collective group of people that are all in debt.
And then you become enslaved to it. And you try and figure out, you just can't get out of it.
And then we have a country.
It becomes too burdensome. And that emotion, that woe, takes a long time to reconcile and deal with and understand where it comes from. So when they say they spend a lot of time in time-space, just to be clear, time-space is the non-physical. They've chosen a non-physical form. Time-space is the area of thought, of consciousness. It's not bound by anything. Space-time is physical, what we experience right now. So they took a lot of time of thought in time-space to reconcile this emotion and this wisdom and this reflection of everything they have internalized. And that's a high form of wisdom, is to take all forms of experience and then come to an internal conclusion of it. And that's what they did in their fifth density
But
form.
they don't come to the eternal conclusion. They just allow that conclusion to happen as a collective.
That's correct. They don't decide what it is. They just let it be what it is. There's no decision. It's just the group says this is the energy.
So why do we feel like we have to make decisions on people?
We don't. That's just our perception of how we've been brought up, our programming, right? And what Ra is saying, fuck that programming. It doesn't work.
It doesn't.
Take that damn DVD out of the DVD player, erase that hard drive. It shouldn't work like that, because that's not the true truth, right? And let's just consider something. They spent eons of time in their fifth density form, trying to reconcile what they had learned in fifth density. We're wasting all of our time judging people and saying who they are in a third and fourth density form? Are you kidding me? You know how long it's going to take? They're doing us a favor. They're giving us a leg up. They're telling us learn from our mistakes.
Yes.
Right? And understand that this teach, learn, teach scenario, we will teach you something so that you can learn. And while you learn, you begin to teach us because we can understand your own evolutionary path so that we can understand how we can refine ourselves quicker.
That's awesome. Which leads us into the sixth density.
Beautiful. Indigo.
Light, love, light, are unity, the law of one.
That's correct. So this is your third eye. Okay? This is the area...
So we have a sixth density in us?
Yes.
How do you explain that?
Okay. We have to separate things for our human understanding. But really, all these things are intertwined. They are one single unified thing. But we split them into different colors. Okay? Because it's easy for our brains to interpret what is going on. So our third eye, the form of our spirit body, right, where it sits in between our eyes and our forehead.
Right.
This is a combination of energies, source energy that come together that allow us to pierce what they call the veil. And the veil is the thing that separates space-time from time-space. It is the unity boundary. It is what determines when something sits at light speed or beyond it. Okay? In that area, that indigo color, that letter A on the piano scale, that tone is resonant with that area. That is a highly refined tone. And refined means it's taking a lot of energy from the lower chakras and other understandings of the universe and compiling them together so that it can bridge the area past the physical into the non-physical. So what does that mean? If I need a lot of horsepower to get the car up to a certain speed on the highway, I have to build my engine specifically in a certain format and then put that into the powertrain and then drive as hard as I can to reach 100 miles an hour.
So a Giza, a Buddha, or whatever, sixth density being, there's notes in here that says compassionate wisdom.
Yes, it's totally unification, right? In the compassion, co means a unification, a grouping, right? And camaraderie, right? That is our group, that is our people coming together. Passion. Passion is feeling, it's emotion. So what you have is a group emotion. You understand group emotion and feeling outside of yourself, and that's what you find in the indigo realm. And that's the thing that transcends space and time. That's what sits in the time-space. That is the sixth density.
Seventh density.
Seventh.
Ready, Alex?
Yeah, go ahead.
The gateway cycle, law of foreverness.
Correct.
Also frequently referred to as that density where one perceives the sacramental nature of all things. And then Ra says this: at the seventh level or dimension, we shall, if our humble efforts are sufficient, become one with all, thus having no memory, no identity, no past or future, but existing in the all.
In the present moment of the all. So what
The
they're
ego's
saying,
gone there.
the ego leaves at that point. What they are saying is that they have evolved past the point of leaving the ego, leaving the point of identity. That we can go back to the one thing that actually created us, and we can rejoin with that. How would I describe that in a metaphor? Where does water go? So if you have water, a water droplet that comes down in the rain, and it rolls off of a leaf, that finds itself into the ground, that goes into the groundwater, that groundwater goes to a stream, that stream goes back to the ocean, and that ocean is the source. That drop of water, call it consciousness, always finds its way back to source, and that's what it's always trying to do. There's no difference in everything in nature, so use that metaphor for how we're applying this. They were but that drop of water from the leaf, finding themselves to the ground, to the greater pool of who they were, and back to the thing that actually created them, and that was the source. That was the greatest pool of water. So at seventh density, That is their unification of going back to the intelligent, infinite, creative source energy, right? The one infinite creator. They become one with it again. There's no reason to have identity because they become one with the all that there is. They understand it was a part of them, and now they need to accept it at its utmost total truth to become that which is.
And a lot of religious teachings talk about heaven.
Yes.
Where we don't have an identity and we're all one. That would be something like seventh density. Maybe in our how we would put it in our English language or an earthly language.
In an earthly language of how we would describe something like that.
Eighth density. We're getting up there.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is like next level stuff.
Yeah.
The octave.
The octave. Okay, so now.
This is what I love about Raw. Listen to this.
Yeah.
The octave, which moves into a mystery we do not plumb.
I love plum. You want to know why plum's great? Because it just about matches the color. Why do you choose plum? Is plum not a color of red and purple mixed?
Mm-hmm.
Red and purple mixed. Let me bring you through a journey. Red is the beginning again, is it not? Was it not the first stage?
Mm-hmm.
So when you move up octaves, you move through the next scale on the piano. You start back at C again. So you're blending what you've learned in the violet back with the red. And you've now moved into a higher, more refined dimension, moving through the 1 through the 7 yet again. There's an area they do not plumb, right? The color is absolutely perfect. It is one they do not think about because it is not perceivable. It is beyond understanding. It is something that they can only understand and experience as they moved into that experience. But right now, it's not worth considering because it's out of their concept of thought.
So they ask a question to Ra. They say, does this mean that in the 8th density you would have awareness of all that is? Here's what Ra says. This is partially correct. It is our understanding, so they're not 8th density.
No, they're not. They're 6th. They're learning just as we are, and that's an important factor. They're on an evolutionary path, just as you and I sitting here in this chair speaking this information so that people can learn and listen from us and be on their own evolutionary journey. We're all doing the same thing, but at different timelines, right?
And that's so important.
And that's a very important thing to understand, and there's no pressure within that.
Mm-hmm.
Learn it and take it for what it is when you want to take it. And evolve with it when you want to evolve with it.
So he says this is partially correct. It is our understanding that it would not be our awareness, but the awareness of the Creator. And the Creator is all there is.
Right. So they've moved through the octaves. Now they've gone from the densities. This is... Conceptualize this in your mind. If you have 7 densities, right? And now you're going to move into the 8th one. And the 8th is this zone. When you shift, right? It's when things become higher, more refined. It is the refining density which moves you into a new dimension of space. So if, say we're all sitting here 1 through 7, right?
Right.
We're dimensionally physical here. But maybe there's a higher refined dimension that sits above this exact one that we are in. And when I say above, it's a conceptual understanding that other things can interject or live in parallel to what we were in right now, right? It's a dimension above. So we are, or Ra is saying that in the 8th is when they transition to a newer dimension and then reset the same cycle, keyword cycle because we spoke about this before, the circle, they're back on their circular path,
Mm-hmm.
It becomes more dense, more refined. And then they can begin to learn through the unified understanding of that creative source consciousness what it means to live in a new dimension as a unified principle. I hope that makes sense. It's quite complicated, but it's difficult to...
I think this is going to get into it. And I encourage them, they get into the pyramids on this
Yeah.
next part of the book. We don't have time for that. They get into Bigfoot. This guy asked about Bigfoot.
Yeah, because he wants to understand. But did they talk about mind, body, spirit?
Well, I wanted to get into, we're going to talk about that, but I wanted to get into a question that was asked about simultaneous time. They say, do we live many lives simultaneously? So Ross says the correctness of the statement is variable. The more imbalanced energy becomes, the less the need for parallel experiences. True simultaneity is available only when all things are seen to be occurring at once.
Okay. Just slow down here for a second. Read the first half of that sentence, and that's the first thing I'm going to start to unpack.
The correctness of the statement is variable. The more imbalanced energy becomes, the less the need for parallel experience.
Thank you. Okay. When you become in balance, right? In balance. So you find yourself balanced. You understand that there is a coherence of timelines. Your understanding of nature and living in the present now begins to happen. So the encompassing of what has happened in the past and when in the future, those energetic energies are all being experienced at this very moment. Okay? So the idea of we are living in multiple times, yes, you are, but you're also living in one singular time in the now, because time is a measurement from a human aspect. So when he talks about the variability is how we understand change. Okay? So we can change it multiple times. You die and are reborn within certain cycles. But that learning that is happening right now, those parallels, only happen when you have a coherent understanding that living in the present moment, aligning all those energies, will determine that, yes, there are other lives happening at this moment, but you're experiencing them all right now.
And I wanted to, for sake of time, I want people to understand this. This was done in 1981.
Yes.
This was brought up in 1981.
Yes.
There is a 3-volume set, and the notes talk about this. Not in the book, but in this person that did the study guide in the last few years. There was a set that just came out called Convergence. It's called Kimball's Symmetric Theory and the Anisotropic Universe Theory, which the entire universe is structured just like a giant spiraling galaxy composed of many smaller galaxies. That just came out of an understanding. Science just understood that. Raw talked about this in 1981.
A lady who was a librarian in 1981 in a slumber-like state talked about this information that is only now just coming to the forefront of quantum mechanics.
Yeah, I want people to understand that part.
That was in 81.
Right.
40 plus years ago, this has happened, right? Or just under 40 years, like 39 years ago.
And so we have about 10 minutes left, and I want to get into the higher self and what Raw talks about the higher self in the next 10 minutes. And then I encourage people to read book 1.
Yeah.
Question brought to Raw, what is the higher self? That's a great question.
It is a great question. It's also a misnomer.
Yes. So Raw calls it out right off the bat. The higher self, as you call it, is the self exists.
As you call it.
As you call it.
Sorry.
Is the self which exists with full understanding of the accumulation of experiences which have not yet been understood by the conscious self. It aids the intent.
Dude, his vocabulary is very difficult.
I know, yeah. Entity in achieving healing and assist in programming further life experiences. And then he says this: the higher self may communicate with the identity during the discarnate part of a cycle, in between lives, or during the physical incarnation itself. Then these are parentheses put in here by the notes for that people would have, that physical word was not put in there, just the incarnation.
Yeah.
It's the proper pathways or channels through the roots of mind are opened. And then he gets into mind, body, spirit, totality. But I want to stop there before we get into the mind, body, spirit, because I want you to talk, just give a brief explanation of the higher self.
Okay.
And the misnomer with that, and then we're going to get into mind, body, and then we're going to be done.
Okay. Higher self is our understanding that there's a greater enlightened part of us that we speak to.
Okay, we're fixing to blow a lot of stuff out of the water right here now.
Okay.
This is scary.
Yeah.
Alex, we're
So,
enlightened.
Your body, right now, carries an energetic form with it, something that has no age.
Mm-hmm.
Your physical body has age. But since our birth, we have done a very poor job of communicating with this thing that ambiates us, right? That or animates us, the thing that gives us life. It's the soul energy, it's that spirit energy. This thing, this higher self, is a culmination of all the experiences we have had in all of our deaths and rebirths, our reincarnations. And when you die, you have the choice to speak and understand and learn from that higher self, and understand the higher self is you. So in the point of death, you can speak to it because you've ignored it in this physical existence. Or, Ra is saying you can come to the awareness in this physical existence that this higher self, right? And when I say higher, you can picture it above your head, but this thing is always internally within you, this energy.
Right.
You can speak to this energy that sits in a place that is not bound by space or time. And being able to speak to this higher self allows you to learn in this present incarnation, this physical form, lessons that don't have to be reviewed when you die. So you can actually choose to learn to evolve and learn quicker now by getting in touch with your higher self rather than waiting for this life to end itself and move to the next stage.
And they ask that question. Then the higher self, this is the question they ask Ra. Then the higher self operates from the future as we understand things. And it would know, as far as I'm concerned, what was going to happen. Is this correct? Ra says this is incorrect.
This is incorrect.
As it would be a violation of free will.
It's a violation of free will. So let's understand this. Because this higher self is not bound by space or time, what it is saying is that it can understand the probabilities of experience that this body and physical form that we have can take. It is not going to determine what Jason does in his day in and day out, but it will give him options for him to choose the highest form of spiritual evolution of the self. So to say that it knows the future and what you're going to do is wrong. What it knows is all probability. And all probability says that you will take one certain path and in the end it will lead to one place. It is just determined the amount of time or lack of time you choose to get to that end point of evolutionary learning. So when Ra says it is incorrect, that is absolutely correct, because it is saying it gives you all probabilities for you to choose that free will, the choice of what path you want to take. But it knows in the end it will get where it needs to go, and that's the evolutionary path of moving in from 7th to 8th density.
Question they ask, is the higher self of every identity of a 6th density nature? Yes, it is an honor duty of self to self as one approaches the 7th density. Question, does the higher self have some type of vehicle or body? Ra, this is correct. Ra, the higher self is a manifestation given to the late 6th density entity as a gift from its future selflessness. The mid-7th density last action before turning towards the allness of the creator and gaining spiritual mass is to give the resource of the higher self to the 6th density self. Let's end in that.
Okay. What it is saying is that it takes on a form of light. Light has no shape. Okay? So imagine just light just dissipating everywhere. Scalar, just totally out. It's almost like a luminescent sphere, but it has no edge. And what it's doing is it's acquiring spiritual mass. It's pulling in more of that love light energy. It's greater wisdom and understanding, and it becomes brighter, more refined. It sings a brighter tone, right? Unlike the piano scale. So that form, it knows that in the future, it knows where it needs to be. It already understands that. So it calls to the future self of what it wants to get to and tries to encompass that form. What's a parallel example? People look at people bodybuilding in the gym, right? And they're like, look at the form of that human being. I want to bring myself to that form in the future. Do they not? Do they not go to the gym and work out?
Yes.
That's what this spiritual form is trying to do through that 6th density up through 8th. What it's saying is, I know where I am in the future. I can see myself being there. I understand that there is no time, and I am already there. There is no concept of time. So to move itself means it needs to embody that energy into what it is now. So it gains that spiritual mass. And the thing with the highest spiritual mass that collapses in on itself is infinite creator source energy. And that's what it's trying to move itself to.
But I think that's the illusion, especially in the New Age religion, because that's like I like what to call it, is this illusion of still focusing on self.
No.
Because as you move up the densities, you are, through your free will, correct me if I'm wrong, through your free will, you're giving of yourself less and less. It's becoming less of self, more of collective.
That's right, because you begin to realize that giving of the self, or giving more of the self, is giving to the greater whole. So you begin to worry less about just, let me just do things for my own good. No, screw that. Why don't you just advance beyond that, because you realize that your greater good will come from helping out the greater whole.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it speaks to.
And that's the freedom that you get in this.
And that's the freedom. You have the choice at this point to help the greater whole, because in the end it will always come back to help you. So why not focus on elevating everyone, everything, every piece of energy within the universe right now?
You know, I look at, like, in a lot of religions, you have, like, tithing, where you give 10% and then you're going to get tenfold back.
Why do you
know, that's all selfishness.
Don't worry about the selfishness. I know it might seem selfish, well, if I help others, it'll help me. Well, no, screw that. If your focus is on helping others, right? Period.
Without thinking of yourself.
And imagine if everybody else also focused on helping others, what's happening? It's an all intercombined unification of helping, right? So
What-
essentially, you are helping yourself by helping others.
Yeah, in the Greek, it's agape love.
That's
And
correct.
That means it's the highest level of love, which is total self-service.
Right, it's service to others.
Right.
You leave the idea of service to self, which means I need to take energy from other people so that I can help myself, right? Like I can channel energy down, in this higher New Age spiritual form, and I can elevate myself as like a guru or through my meditation, and I can become enlightened.
And since I'm enlightened,
Yeah.
I'm a better being than
Wrong.
those around us.
And this is some of the issues with the current age of, New Age religious spiritualism, right?
Right.
Is the fact that it is not about enlightening you. It's about pulling down that energy to share and understand that the energy is among all of us. And it's to elevate everyone. And it's not just about you, it's about the service to others, right? It's no longer about the service to self, because the greatest evolutionary path is bringing everyone on that journey together, not just you. Because if just you evolve, you leave everyone in the dust to suffer, right? There's no
And
benefit.
it comes down to one thing with the love and the light, and that is to teach and learn, and to learn to teach.
And that's all it is. And to share that educational process gives everyone the opportunity from their own free will to evolve on their time. And it's not something for you to hoard. Okay? It's not from something to you to say that you're better than anyone else, because you all share the same material and the same resources and come from the same source. That's wrong. So again, you're being a hypocrite while you're meditating, pulling all this energy and saying you're an enlightened person.
That's why at Higher Density Living, to close,
Yes.
all our material is out.
All
All of it.
All of it.
You don't pay $1,000 to get special secret videos.
No.
Everything is given freely to everyone.
It is free guidance, it is free education, it is free knowledge for you to learn. And when you learn it, you can then teach it and disseminate it to others.
And through that, you learning and us teaching, then we're learning from you.
Absolutely, because then
And
we
you're teaching
know
us.
we know the importance of where you are in your journeys and how we should then find some sort of slant, as Rob would put it, to put it into a field of view of perspective so that we can all evolve at a quicker rate to go back to that one place we all choose to be, and that's that greater pool of water.
I love that. Well, thanks, Alex. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jason.
Hopefully everyone understood this one.
I hope so. Just remember,
Read the books. You can get them for free.
Yeah.
llresearch.org.
all is one.
All is one. Thanks.